Check Podcasts.
Hi, I'm Bruce Williams. I'm the CEO of the Greater Victoria Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Chamber Chats, coming to you as always from the podcasting studios here at the Czech Media Group, one of our chamber champions. I would like to acknowledge that, as always, I live and work, and we are now gathered in the ancestral lands of the Lekwungen-speaking nations, the Songhees and the Esquimalt. And Chamber Chats is made possible by the support of Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union. You know, there's that cheesy line that you hear all the time that people say to kids. They say, "So what do you want to be when you grow up?" Some of us have even said that to adult friends. What do you want to be when you grow up? The question would probably be different now. It's more like, how many things do you think you will be when you grow up? Because as we know, people more and more are not sticking to one career. And when we talk about sort of job skills development, very often the conversation revolves around colleges and universities. But that whole process actually begins in our local school districts, in elementary, middle school, and high schools. We're going to talk about that today with a couple of representatives of School District 61. Deb Whitten is the superintendent of SD61. Deb, how are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much, Bruce.
Thank you for being here. And Lindsay Johnson is the district principal for Pathways and Partnerships at School District 61. Lindsay, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Deb, I want to begin with you just to sort of state the obvious for people to define School District 61, because it's kind of called the Victoria School District, but you go way beyond that. So tell me about your sort of the boundaries, how many schools, how many students, how many staff?
Sure. So we are located, as you say, in the Greater Victoria School District, and we work and live on 6 different areas. So six different municipalities. We're in Esquimalt, Oak Bay, Victoria, View Royal, and portions of Saanich and the Highlands. We have just over 23,000 students in our district, so we're fairly large in terms of provincial districts. And we have 3 levels. So we have elementary schools, we have middle schools that are grades 6 to 8, and we have secondary schools. And in our elementary schools, we have about 9,000 students this year, about 4,500 in middle school, and about 7,700 in secondary schools. And we also have a strong international program. So we have just under 1,000 students who come and join our district for either 1 year or many years. And we have, as you've mentioned, we're spread throughout the municipalities, and I think are very fortunate also to have many teachers and QP staff and principals and vice principals. So quite a large district, and have lots of fantastic staff.
Great. We're going to talk about that international stuff a little later on. Lindsay, can you explain to me and to everybody what Pathways and Partnerships is?
Yeah, for sure. So Pathways and Partnerships is a department within the Greater Victoria School District that focuses on career education. So that is helping to support the curriculum within our kindergarten through grade 12 schools, as well as providing opportunities within schools, in community, in post-secondary, and all sorts of different places for students to learn a little bit more about who they are and their future orientation.
So when does that begin? Like what grade level in elementary school does this, Lindsay, I'll stick with you, does this whole career conversation get underway?
Yeah, so the Ministry of Education and Childcare created a career education curriculum that actually begins in kindergarten. So students are learning about career education and themselves beginning as soon as they enter our school district, all the way through to when they leave. And we've had the opportunity to create some incredible resources to go alongside that curriculum. Our kindergarten through grade 8 coordinator here in Pathways and Partnerships, Bonnie Alexander, she co-creates resources to help support those kindergarten through grade 8 curriculum and the competencies and the content. And obviously, career education becomes much more specific as kids age and mature and grow. So there are a lot of ways through the curriculum and supplementary opportunities through our department that students, when they're in elementary school, are being exposed to career education. And then when they're in middle school, we talk about more exploration. And then once kids hit high school, we talk about more experiential opportunities for them that are much more individualized.
So Deb, let's talk about how that's actually done. What's the process? What's the interaction? How do the teachers and the students work together on that?
I think what we're finding in education now is it's much more of a collaborative process. I think that as teachers, they're facilitators of learning, and they are guided in BC by the Ministry of Education and Childcare and the curriculum there. Although the curriculum now is quite diverse and certainly gives for choice, and that's an important part of student learning is where their voice is heard and where they represented within their own learning, and how do they lean into their learning based on their own curiosities, on their desire to continue their growth. And I think that exposure piece too of a variety of interests in a variety of areas of passion allows for students to gain knowledge about maybe some of their strengths, maybe some of their stretches, and then working alongside the adults in the classroom to really expand that, and also to provide students with areas that they wouldn't normally explore. And I think that's the beauty of the pathways and partnerships is entering in. You may think you have an idea of what you might want to become or grow in, and as you progress through, you really do learn other things that perhaps you never thought about, and really do find an interest in and a passion and a strength.
Those of us who are old enough to remember the term guidance counselor, that doesn't really happen anymore. Instead, they're sort of career counselors. So, Lindsay, tell me, for example, a career counselor having a conversation with a student in, I don't know, grade 3. How does that work? What's the dynamic like?
But we actually don't have career counselors in elementary or middle school.
Oh,
We
it's a high
really,
school thing.
that's right,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Yeah, in elementary and middle school, again, through the career education curriculum is when those conversations are starting. And we love career education because the research really shows us that when we're speaking to things that are relevant and that feel real to students, it really does increase that motivation and links to real world learning. So in elementary and middle levels, it's our teachers, our classroom teachers, our educators, but we also really co-collaborate and co-create with our teacher librarians a whole lot at those two levels. So the teacher librarians are pretty incredible at creating opportunities through maker centers in their spaces. We have tool trolleys in our elementary schools, which give students the opportunity to do hands-on projects. We have Glowforge technology in our middle schools. And then we host all sorts of events in schools in elementary and middle, as well as outside in community for them as well. So it's really that co-planning with educators within the classroom and teacher librarians is huge for us. And then once kids hit high school, that is where we have dedicated career centers in each of our high schools. So that's where we have career center coordinators and career center teachers who we call our dream teams. So these are educators who are having meaningful conversations every day with students about their future orientation and who they are, and connecting them to different opportunities that will allow them to grow and develop. And what's been great is we know that in our high schools, these career centers are being utilized so much. So our grade 12s are telling us in a recent survey that 89% of them knew where their career center was, and 87% of grade 12s are actually going and visiting, and they're taking part in opportunities that are coming out of those career centers. So they are highly utilized. And we know that that's so important because the research also tells us that if students participate in 4 or more career-related opportunities, they're actually 25% less likely to be leaving high school, as the term is NEET, which stands for not in education, employment, or training. So we know that these opportunities and creating them are hugely crucial. And so that's why our career center counselors and our coordinators and our teachers are so crucial within those high schools.
So, okay, we've talked about the students, we've talked about the teachers and the counselors. The parents need to be involved in this too. We're going to talk about that next. Our chamber chat today is all about career beginnings at the elementary, middle, and high school level, because again, we've talked so much about colleges and universities. We're talking today with School District 61 about that. Deb Whitten is the superintendent of the school district, and Lindsay Johnson is the district principal of something called Pathways and Partnerships. So Deb, tell me when the parents integrate into this whole thing.
Right. Parents are partners in the education system all the way through. And so, as Lindsay said, when we're introducing these concepts and ideas into kindergarten, we're introducing them as well, or welcoming parents into this conversation. So it is as early as they come in. and then age appropriately brought throughout the system. And Lindsay and the team here have done opportunities and learnings for parents. And I think Lindsay can do a great job in exploring and expanding on what they've done, particularly this year and over the past couple of other years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lindsay, over to you.
Yeah, for sure. So we really hope that parents can be part of this journey from the start. As Deb said, we actually call anyone who has a part in a student's career journey career influencers. And research shows that parents are actually the most important and the most influential career influencer in a student's life. And so Bonnie Alexander, my colleague, and I actually put on parents as career influencer workshops for parents throughout our district. And these provide practical ways for parents and guardians to be speaking with their young people at home about their career pathways. And we also provide some exercises that they can take home and do together that just allows for that positive conversation between parents and students that can sometimes be a little bit tricky when you're looking at that future orientation, just because there feels like there's so much pressure on both the guardian and the student about what are the next steps, because we know we all feel that pressure. We all get those questions from all sorts of people about, what is the next step?
Deb, I'm going to go to you rather for this one, because this is a little bit of I'm not going to say a legal matter, but it's a strategic matter. If you're going to put students into a workplace for them to check a place out and see what goes on, how does that process work and what's involved in that?
We do have obviously a series of things that have to occur before that time. And we do work with WorkSafe to, again, ensure that we're not putting any student in any unsafe situation. The specifics really do line up with Lindsay, and so I know the legal parts, and then the paperwork and the learning parts are handed out through the classroom teacher and into the work experience opportunities. But I don't know if Lindsay has more to add on that.
Yeah, I won't go into too many of the details because there is a whole lot when we're putting students in community. Safety is the most important. So, there are pieces where students need to understand their rights as workers. We're doing site checks with supervisors and ensuring there's WorkSafe BC coverage. So there's multiple checkpoints along the way. So there's lots of legalities involved to ensure that it's an appropriate placement.
Yeah. Deb, can you explain how the creation and the alignment of curriculum happens, so that as job opportunities and careers pop up, there has to be curriculum created so the students can learn as they move through the education system? Tell me about that process of creating curriculum.
In BC, we do have the Ministry of Education and Childcare who provides curriculum for the ministry courses. Within a district, we can also create a board authority course. So if we have a specific interest in the district, we can create a course, provided again that aligns with the Ministry of Childcare and Education. Within that, in the district, we do have opportunities for students to take areas of interest, and we've created some board authority courses that have been fantastic and very well received. Aviation comes to mind. Often this comes as an interest of students or an interest of a staff member in a school, and then we look for ways to support that. And so it's a combination of what is coming to us through research and through what we know as an evolving society needs, global needs, as well as data and leaning in again to the student's voice. They help us understand what's of interest to them. And then again, looking at what we know of evolving and emerging needs, we want to make sure that what we are providing is allowing for students to be ready to be contributors throughout society, and for them also to understand what is required and what does it mean to be an effective individual throughout society.
This is kind of a budget question, so I'll stick with you for this, Deb. As all of us in our personal lives and our work lives have seen technology advance remarkably, we have had to keep up with that. How is the school district able to keep up with putting the technology in place that will give these students the skills they need and the understanding they need?
We have, well, every year the board goes through a budget process. They are required to pass a balanced budget every year. And I think in those processes, we're looking at what are the emerging needs, and technology is certainly a key point in this. And we, over the last probably 7 or 8 years, have leaned into a lot of technology, again, K through 12. And so younger years, we're looking at different devices through to grade 12, where we want to ensure that the student has access to technology, both as a learning device, both as capturing their information, but also as a research device. And we want to make sure that there's equitable access. So that is also a budget consideration. And that if we need to, that we're realigning budgets so that we are meeting the needs of the students. So there's lots of opportunity for students to provide feedback in the budget process, for staff to provide feedback, and also for parents. So it is an area that is growing and an area that we do need to pay attention to.
Yeah, for sure. Education, healthcare, and housing are three of the biggest sort of budget items in the province, if not federally too. Okay, so at the Chamber, we do this really cool event that we partner with School District 61. It kind of aligns with this whole thing we're talking about today. It's called Guess My Job. We're going to talk about that next. We're talking today on Chamber Chats about the education system at the elementary, the middle school, and the high school level, about getting kids oriented into the way that they're going to find a career path for themselves to get them started up in the rest of their lives. Deb Whitten is with us. She's the superintendent of School District 61, and Lindsay Johnson is the district principal for Pathways and Partnerships. Lindsay, you and I have actually met at a Guess My Job event, so I can talk about it a bit, but why don't you start off and tell everybody what Guess My Job is?
Yeah, for sure. Guess My Job events are fantastic events that we are hosting at elementary schools throughout our district. This is modeled on an event created by a UK charity called Education and Employers that we are connected very closely with. And as you said, Bruce, we work really closely with the Chamber of Commerce with these events as well, because you've been so wonderful in helping us to find some really great panelists. So essentially what it is we bring multiple elementary classes into a gym, and we have a set of panelists, usually 3 to 4 people from community, who come in plain clothed. And what the students need to do is ask yes or no questions to learn about the jobs that these people do. And they answer the yes or no questions, and then students have the opportunity to throw some guesses out there about what these people actually do as their job. We don't reveal the job at that point, but we let the panelists leave. And when they come back, they have their equipment, they're wearing their uniforms, they have other props that they walk in with. And typically at that point, that's when the kind of shock and awe and surprise from the students occur. One of the main purposes for these types of events, the Guess My Job, is to really start to break down gender stereotypes often that really still exist in our world and in the minds of some of our students. And so the surprises often come when there is a female electrician, or possibly a male nurse, or a female athlete, or possibly a male early childhood educator. And we also like to have students exposed to jobs that maybe they've never heard of before, so that they can learn more about them, and then they get to visit the panelists at their table and ask some questions in a more intimate setting. So it's a really fabulous event, again, that just allows students those younger ages to be exposed to more jobs and meet more people that do different jobs, because one of the big pieces about our department and our goals is around equity. And we know that not all students are having the same conversations around the dinner table, and they don't have access to the same networks, or they aren't exposed to as many career pathways through their families and their close contacts. So we really feel that it's important for us to be playing a huge role in that for all students.
Yeah, the overriding theme for this is they can't be what they can't see. So, for example, as you mentioned, what females in non-traditional female roles, a woman who was a sheet metal worker came out. There was a woman who monitors underwater marine noises. One of my favorites was the guy who was the concertmaster from the symphony, who left and came walking back into the room playing his violin. It was amazing to see all of that. But this stuff really does show a light onto the future, and it gives these kids an opportunity to see what they can possibly be. I want to go back and talk now about the international element, Deb, that you mentioned earlier. Tell me about the role or the place for international students within our school system.
It's very important in our district. I think it's beneficial on a number of levels. There are international students who come in and get to experience living in Victoria, working with other cultures. As Victoria becomes more diverse, I think that people who are in Victoria, maybe some of them aren't traveling or aren't aware of different cultures. So having international students with us, we learn from them, they learn from us. Many of them stay and attend post-secondary or have work that they've decided to remain in. It's an important part of our district, and we're fortunate to have a strong international program. And I think that students who typically come into the district are very welcomed and certainly experience that openness that Victoria has to offer, and lots of times don't want to go and create relationships that last well beyond their time here. So whether it's the family that hosted them that goes and visits them, or they come back for visits, but it's a strong relationship and one that I think we're proud of within the district.
Yeah, and there's unique experiences for Indigenous students as well, and that's all. It's on the School District 61 website if you do want to check it out. Camosun and UVic are, of course, destinations for these kids once they leave high school to go and get more skills to carry on in their life. Lindsay, what's the ongoing relationship with the school district and Camosun and UVic? Because you do have a symmetry with them, right?
Yes, definitely. We feel super grateful to be living in an area that we are in such close proximity to a top-notch college, and the same thing with UVic as a university. So those two post-secondary institutions play a huge role in our ability to provide opportunities for students to, again, explore who they are. And Camosun and UVic are very welcoming to us and our students, and they rarely will say no when we come to them with some idea of how to expose students to campuses or what they have to offer. And then once students hit high school, we have partnerships with Camosun and UVic in terms of dual credit. So that provides high school students, typically in grade 12, the opportunity to begin their post-secondary journeys while they're still in high school. And that could be taking a course or a program that aligns with their future goals. So that's a really great way to enable students to be exposed to what post-secondary education is all about, and to provide confidence for them in knowing that they're able to do it, and they'll be excited to make that transition after high school.
Well, needless to say, our kids are in good hands. Our grandchildren are in good hands. And we at the Chamber, of course, have a priority of making sure that we have enough workforce for everybody to flourish and succeed at their best level. Thank you both for being here today to talk about this. Deb Whitten is the Superintendent of School District 61. Deb, thanks for being here. And Lindsay Johnson, is the District Principal of Pathways and Partnerships at School District 61. Their website is sd61.bc.ca, and you can check out more there. Thank you both for being here. Thank you for watching. I'm Bruce Williams, and we'll see you again for another Chamber Chat.